Today, we're going to talk about how some of the biggest ideas in environmental engineering can show up in the most unexpected places, like a small family run soy milk stand. And it all kicks off with a simple challenge from a mom to her daughter.
So meet Mally. She's a second-year environmental engineering student. When she comes home from university, her mom, who runs the family soy milk shop, kind of playfully calls her out. She says, "Hey, you're learning all this fancy stuff. Why don't you use it to help me out here?" And you know what? Mally was totally up for the challenge. So, where does she even begin? Well, she starts with her mom's very first question. Where do all our ingredients actually go? It sounds so simple, right? But it's actually the key to unlocking everything. To answer it, she introduces this really fundamental engineering idea called mass balance. So, what on earth is mass balance? Well, put simply, it's the idea that stuff doesn't just disappear. You can't create or destroy matter, it just changes its form. So whether you're talking about a giant factory, a whole ecosystem, or, yeah, a pot of soy milk, you have to be able to account for everything you put into it. To make this crystal clear for her mom, Molly just scribbles down this simple little equation. Basically, whatever you put into a system has to equal whatever comes out, plus anything that gets left behind or stored, and anything that's kind of lost to the air, like steam. Simple. And here we go. You can see it in action. They start with exactly 5 kilograms of soybeans. That's the input. After all the grinding and boiling, they get 1.5 kilograms of pulp, 3.3 kilograms of soy milk, and they figure about zero point 0.2 kilograms just vanished as steam. So you add all that output up, and what do you get? Exactly 5 kilograms. It's a perfect balance. Looking at it this way is, well, it's pretty fascinating. Obviously, most of it becomes delicious soy milk. But look at that. A full 30% becomes soy pulp. Now, that's not just a tiny bit of waste, it's a huge output. And for an environmental engineer like Molly, a huge output isn't a problem. It's an opportunity. Okay, so on to the next problem. One morning, Molly's mom is really worried. The soy milk is turning sour way too fast, and she swears she hasn't changed the recipe at all. For Molly, this isn't just a spoiled batch of soy milk. This is a classic science puzzle. And the answer, she realizes, has to do with something you probably remember from chemistry class, pH. Right, pH. It's all about balance. I mean, think about it on a huge scale, like in a wastewater treatment plant. If the pH level gets out of whack, all the good bacteria that you need to clean the water, they just die. The whole system fails. Molly realizes the exact same principle applies here. If the soy milk gets too acidic, it's going to spoil. And this is where Molly makes this really wonderful connection for her mom. She explains that, just like the soy milk needs the perfect chemical balance to stay fresh and sweet, our lives are kind of like that too. Our moods need balance. If things get too acidic, too stressful, too negative, well, everything can start to feel like it's going sour. It's all about finding that healthy middle ground. All right, so now that Molly has these principles of balance in her mind, she decides to go after the two biggest sources of waste in the shop. All the heat just escaping from the stove, and of course, that giant pile of leftover soy pulp. First up, let's talk energy balance. Their old stove, it was this open design that was just bleeding heat into the air. So Molly suggests a few simple fixes. Things like insulating the stove to keep the heat locked in, and adding a proper chimney to capture heat from the smoke before it just floats away. And the results? They used less fuel, and the soy milk boiled way faster.
So how much of a difference did this really make? Well, Molly did the math, and it turns out they were wasting a full 20% of their energy. Think about that for a second. That's like taking 1 out of every 5 pieces of firewood and just throwing it away. By plugging those energy leaks, they made every single bit of fuel count.
So next, Molly turns her attention back to that big pile of pulp from our first calculation. Her mom just sees it as a hassle, something she has to figure out how to get rid of. But Molly, she sees something completely different. She sees untapped potential. She sees fuel. And here is where her biogas studies come in with this brilliant solution. It's a process called anaerobic digestion. You take the soy pulp, put it in a sealed tank with some special microbes. As those little guys munch away on the waste, they release methane gas. And that gas can be captured and used as fuel to, you guessed it, boil the next batch of soy milk. This is such a perfect, bite-sized example of what's called a circular economy.
The waste from making the product, that soy pulp, it's not waste anymore. It gets transformed right back into the energy you need to make more of the product. It's this beautiful, self-sustaining loop.
So let's just take a step back and see how this all comes together. Mally takes all these individual fixes, the mass balance, the pH control, the energy efficiency, the biogas, and she weaves them together into one single, elegant, sustainable system. So she lays out the new and improved shop principles. With mass balance, nothing is lost, everything is accounted for. With energy balance, plus a little help from some solar panels to preheat the water, nothing is wasted. The biogas system turns waste into a resource. pH control keeps the product fresh. And they even start treating their wastewater so it can be returned safely to nature. See how every single piece supports all the others?
And in the end, this little soy milk shop becomes a tiny model of how our planet should work. It shows us that sustainability isn't just some big abstract idea for factories and governments. It's about practical, powerful ideas of balance and resourcefulness that can totally transform the most familiar parts of our own lives. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What waste in your own world is just waiting to become a treasure?